Well, hello, 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 and welcome to The Difference Makers. I'm your host, Jacqueline Grant, and we are here with a very interesting guest for today that is talking about succession planning. Have you given any thought as to what's going to happen once you decide to either close your business or once you decide to pass your business along to someone else, a family member, maybe one of your executives? Have you given thought to what happens when you decide to no longer do your particular business? Our guest today is a succession planner, and she's going to share some of the things that you need to think about. Maybe you've never thought about it. I really never gave much thought about it until probably about a year ago when I decided to make some changes in my business. And I determined what's going to happen with all that I've created and all whom I've served, and how am I going to make that a legacy for the future. So share with me the virtual stage as I bring our guest for today, Janise. She is here, Janise Graham. She's a speaker, author, president of the Small Business Style Incorporated and Entrepreneurs Insurance Services. She is involved in so many different entrepreneurial groups. She's currently serving as immediate president of the Island Empire chapter of the National Association of Women Business Owners, NABO. And she is the President's Assembly Steering Committee member, which is PASC, with NABO as well. She also serves on the California Board of National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors and is past president of the Inland Empire chapter of NAIFA. She'll tell us what that is in just a moment. She's also been the past president of Business Resource Connection and serves on several different boards and councils. She is well known and well versed in her area of expertise. She's been in business for several years, and she is committed to the service of families and businesses and their employees in giving them longevity and a legacy. She has a degree in business administration, but she's here today to share her expertise in serving families and helping them to be able to have their business last a lifetime. So please bring to the virtual stage, help me to bring her on, Janise Graham. Welcome, Janise.
Thank you. Thank you. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here.
It is great to have you here, and we are looking forward to hearing your pearls of wisdom, the gems that you have to share with us, and getting us to really think about the future. This time, since this pandemic has given us time to really think and ponder about the immediate future, but what about the long-term future? That's what we want to give some consideration to today. But first, we want to know, how are you making a difference in the world with your gifts and talents and abilities?
I love that question. I believe that everyone can make a difference. And what I do, I liken it to a lot of other professions. Doctors save lives, nurses nurture people. I believe that what I do is I save businesses and I save business owners. And with that, my mission is to save the world one small business owner at a time. I'm
Wow.
clear on who I serve, and that's how I'm going to serve them.
Wow. So, talking about how you serve them with succession planning, tell us exactly what that is.
Sure. Succession planning or exit planning is putting together a strategy and a plan so that you really have a roadmap as to how you leave your business. So often, business owners think about it maybe like when it's a little bit too late or when they're really tired of their business or
Mhm.
they just maybe there's an illness or a death and there's not a plan in place. So succession planning doesn't mean that you're planning to fail. It doesn't mean that you're planning to quit. It doesn't mean that you have to leave today. It is putting a plan in place that may be implemented in 15 to 20 years from now. So you'll often hear it called succession planning or exit planning.
So, in business school, we hear about the exit plan or the exit strategy for corporations, but our small businesses are businesses that need that same type of planning. So, give us an idea as to some of the benefits of succession planning.
Certainly. So I want to go 1 second. When you talk about business school and exit planning, oftentimes when people think of exit planning, they think of it in the large corporate setting. And with exit planning in a corporation, It's oftentimes handled in your human resources department. For
Mhm.
small business owners, they don't have that. So some of the key components are a little bit different. And for business owners, some of those key points are really just kind of taken into consideration, the gifts and talents that you bring to your clients, to the world. What is it? Why are you in business? Who are you serving? So it's putting a plan, or some of the points that you want to look at is how you're serving your current clients and what would happen to them. You have contracts with them, right? What would happen to that client? What about your employees? It's putting a strategy in place to address what happens to your employees. Let's say you have 50 employees, 100 employees, 5 employees. What happens to your employees if something happens to you? They have a rent, they have a mortgage, they have childcare, they have food, they have clothing needs. What you do affects an entire community. So some of the key points are starting with looking at those that you serve and who serve you, and how you make a difference in their world.
So that's from the employee's standpoint and the client's standpoint. What about family members? Maybe you have the idea that maybe your children will take over. Maybe the children don't have that in mind at all, and that assumption may be wrong. So, how do you even start to consider that aspect of the plan?
That is a huge aspect of the plan, because family, like you said, they may have a vision that is on point, and they may have one that would ruin everything. So if you know your family, and maybe you have a child or a grandchild or someone that you believe should be your heir apparent and step in and handle the business, do they want to do that? They may want to go off and be a professional skier. So having a realistic expectation and a clear vision is going to be huge, because if that family member does not have your vision, or they don't have the ability, the knowledge or expertise to continue the business will most likely fail. It may be the other way around. There may be family members that want nothing to do with the business, and you know that. And sometimes what happens, if there's not a plan, they'll come in and either sell the business or they'll run it into the ground. So it's important that you take into account your heirs, because legally, well, in California, laws are different in every state, but it's like your heirs, if there is not a plan, outside of your spouse, it will start going to your children and other family members, and they may or may not have your vision. So it's one of the key components is really looking at your family and what they have to offer to that business.
Absolutely. So now another component could be maybe a star player in your company, a star performer, someone who has been with you for some period of time, who really knows the business inside and out, who is your right hand person and maybe even your left hand person as well. And they may be a great option for taking over.
Most definitely. There's that one person, and you know who they are, and it's the one that catches on, that's committed, that is showing great interest in the business. Maybe they're 10 years, 20 years younger than you. Maybe they're your age and you want to just retire a little bit earlier. But when you have someone that's in your business that you can nurture, there are ways that you can incent that person to stay. And oftentimes the fear or the concern is, well, I have Janise and she's coming along behind me, but she can't afford to buy this business from me. You'd be surprised with some of the strategies that you could put into place if you plan long enough ahead or in advance. That there are plans that you could put into place, so that I, as your heir apparent or your star employee, have resources available so that I can buy that business or take over that business, so that our clients continue to see seamless results. So most definitely, there are heir parents amongst you, and keep an eye out for them, because they are diamonds.
Absolutely, absolutely. And where there's a will, there's a way. There are always key ways to negotiate strategies and put together certain packages. It's done in real estate all the time, and your business is a piece of property.
Yes, it is definitely an asset. Definitely an asset.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, when we talk about selling the business, as you mentioned, what are some things to consider if maybe that is part of your strategy or your plan?
There's several things that you want to consider. One, the true value of your business. Oftentimes, as business owners, and I'll say small business owners, because quiet as it's kept, 99% of the businesses in America are small business owners. We always hear about the big ones, but the reality is that small businesses are the employers of our country.
And can we
So,
just define small business?
sure.
Because that is different depending on who you talk to. And I understand that to be if you have 100 employees or less. That's pretty big in some cases.
Actually, according to the Small Business Administration, it's 500 employees or less, which is
Okay.
huge.
Mhm.
But when you think about it, and you think about Amazon, who has 1.2 million, it's relative,
Yeah.
right? And you hear Walmart and Amazon and Xerox, and you hear the big names. But the reality is that a 500 employer is a large business to most of us, but it is determined to be a small business.
Okay, great. So, what should a business owner, large or small, consider when they are now starting their succession plan?
They should consider, and this is a tough one because I've interviewed tons and I've talked to tons of entrepreneurs. They don't have a retirement date or exit date. It's not like you work for an employer and you go, December 31st, 2022, I'm out. It's usually, I love what I do and I'm going to be here forever. So when starting to consider that business plan, just put a date, even if it's in the future, of a date of options or date of having a choice. Maybe that day is 15 years from now. And once you determine that day, you just kind of think about what that day would look like, assuming that you have your health and you have everything in order that you want.
Mhm.
Visualize what that looks like. Once you have that date, then we start working, or you should start working backwards from that date and looking at what key components need to be put into place to make sure that once that date gets here, you have an option, you have a choice. Do I stay or do I go hang out with my grandkids?
Mm.
You have a choice. But looking at some of the steps is looking at the value of the business. Oftentimes with small business owners, the value of the business is here in two ways. One, the knowledge is there because there are no operations or things in writing. And secondly, maybe the value of that business is bolstered because I feel like my business is worth $5 million when on paper it may not be. So having some realistic expectations as to what that value of the business is today and tomorrow. If you know the true value of your business today and you know what you want it to look like 15 years from now, then yay, we have something to work towards, right? So you can start putting a strategy in place with that. And secondly, looking at what you have that you do and know. So often, as business owners, small business owners, someone is ready to sell and only to realize that all the standard operating procedures are in their head.
Mhm.
You cannot sell that. You have to have a vision and a plan where everything is laid out.
So, how do we take the first steps of valuing our business and going through that evaluation process or that valuation process to be able to come up with a figure that we're worth now so that we can grow it and scale it to what we want it to be in the future?
There are several ways of doing it. There are companies that will offer a valuation for a fee. They're called business valuation companies. There are CPAs who will do business valuations, and maybe it's just a preliminary valuation. There are some insurance companies that will give you a valuation or an idea of what your business is worth. But it's really having a conversation with your accountant or your certified public accountant, your CPA, and looking at what your business looks like on your profit and loss statement, on a paper, because there may be things that you're paying for or that your business is paying for that affect the bottom line.
Mhm.
So understanding the numbers and then understanding your industry. Every industry has a different way of factoring and doing a multiple of what that business is worth, because you can say, well, in our industry, I have $1 million in sales, and our multiple is 2. Well, then it's 2 million, maybe your sale value. So understanding the factor for your industry and understanding your numbers.
Well, you mentioned before about the intellectual property that's between our ears that most business owners have. That's why they started the business. That's how they've grown the business. They've made impacts in the marketplace based on their ability to scan the marketplace and serve that marketplace with their knowledge, skills, and abilities. How do they go about valuing their intellectual property?
That is a tough one because because when you're valuing that brain trust of yours, it also affects the heart and the emotions of that business owner. Because you're taking information and it's like, I think it's worth X. So it's really literally taking what's in your head, as much of it as possible, and putting it on paper.
Mhm.
And if there are certain parts of what you know that are proprietary, of course, there's non-disclosures and there's ways of keeping it confidential. As a matter of fact, this entire process is confidential. But you really have to take everything that you know and you have to articulate it in writing. And then it may be, an opportunity or a good time to sit down with your accountant, to sit down with an intellectual property attorney if there's truly some things there that need to be trademarked or protected in that way. But the real key is getting in writing. A lot of people can't do that. Sitting still is difficult. Create a file on your phone and start talking your thoughts, and then have it transcribed. That's probably one of the easiest ways. Like, oh, I do this and this, or I've thought about that, or I've invented that, I created this. Whatever the case may be, our logistics work this way. Just start talking, because sometimes, look, if I had to sit down and type everything that I know, there'd be so many typos I wouldn't even understand it. But if I can record it, because my voice and my mind are working and flowing, have it transcribed, then I can clean it up and try to create something that's pretty valuable. I recommend that for most business owners because our brains go so fast.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you bring up two good points. You've talked about trademarks, patents. This may be an opportunity to package that intellectual knowledge and that intellectual property into a valuable commodity through the patents, through the trademarks, and so forth. But also using our wonderful little devices here, transcribing our thoughts into a book. What are your thoughts about that?
I think that's a great idea.
Well, speaking of that great
Absolutely.
idea, you too are an author of a soon to be released book, as well as even another upcoming book. Would you tell us about the current one and then the one that's still in the works?
Absolutely. I am so excited. This has been an extremely long journey to get these words out. I have a book that I've been working on for years, because when it comes to exit planning, in my industry, we call it advanced planning. And you go to trainings and you learn different ways of serving business owners. Well, if we as financial advisors or financial professionals call it advanced planning, what do you think small business owners call it? Impossible, because it's something that they don't know. So I've been working for many, many years on a book to introduce the concept and the process of exit planning to business owners. So my first book is Leaving in Style: Business Succession on Your Terms.
Love
And
it. Tell
thank
us again.
you.
Tell us the title again.
It's
Leaving
Leaving
in
in
Style.
Style. Absolutely, because we want to leave as gracefully as we run it.
Mhm.
Leaving in Style: Business Succession. And on the cover, it has success and then shun. So you're successful. Business succession on your terms.
Nice. I love it. I love it. And tell us a bit about the one that's still in the works.
I will. Yay. So the second book, which has been also divine and it truly has blessed me because I had the opportunity to meet and interview you. My second book is it comes from the research that I did from the first book.
Mhm.
When I was researching exit planning and succession planning for the first book, I realized that all of the books had case studies on business owners, but they were all men. And I'm like, I think women are in business too. And it kind of bothered me, but I kept going. So I finally finished the first one. And actually, before I even finished the first one, I started the second one because I said, I want to hear the voices of women in business, because we do have a voice. And I started reaching out to successful business owners like yourself and just asking some very simple questions. And when I initially started this process, the book didn't have a name. I just knew I wanted to hear the voices of women.
Mhm.
And, as fate would have it, it's so divine that it will also have the same name, just a different subtitle. So the second book is Leaving in Style, her story of succession from around the world. Because courtesy of COVID and Zoom, I've had the honor of interviewing women from around the world. It is so much fun. I'm up at 7 o'clock in the morning and interviewing, and I'm up at 11 o'clock at night interviewing women on the continent of Africa and other countries. And it has just been pure joy. Now, that one will probably be done. I'll be working on that one probably towards the end of the year, early next year, because I'm launching the first one, believe it or not, April 7th. April 7th.
Yes.
So,
And this is also Women's History Month. For those who are watching on replay, we are recording this here live on LinkedIn, live on YouTube and Facebook in the month of March
yes,
2022. So,
absolutely.
so tell us, Janise, what have you found that's similar across all the interviews you've done for this now second book? And what's the most striking thing you found that might be different?
Wow, that's see, and when this is without all doing my analysis, because I have truly I've been recording those conversations for the analysis. But the similarity that I found is that talking to women, business owners, and I've seen it with men and women,
Mhm.
but business owners don't have an exit date. They don't.
I
And
don't.
well, see, you're unique. Most of them, it's like, I love what I do. I could do this forever, because oftentimes they're using their brains and not their hands. And they say, I could do this forever. And that is what I see a lot of. Um,
Hopefully, if we keep using our brain, it'll keep serving us for years
uh,
to come.
exactly.
Because when you stop
Yeah,
doing whatever you love, you
that's
start
right.
to fade off.
That's it. It's that purpose driven life. It's having that vision and that purpose and that calling. Now it may shift. Maybe one of the things that I've seen, that's a similarity. One of the things that I've seen that's different. Actually, it's not even really different. Women recognize that they're not invincible. That's another commonality, is that women recognize that. Not that doesn't happen all the time. But I think if I say one of the differences would be just the spectrum. I am talking to women on a spectrum, from those who have said, I have never heard of exit planning, to those who have done it and done it well, or they've done it and it didn't turn out so well. So that is going to be probably the biggest difference, is the spectrum
Mhm.
and the caliber of women that I'm talking to, where they are on that journey.
So, are you still looking for women to interview?
I am. I am about halfway through my commitment. I committed to 100 interviews, and I'm about halfway through that. And at first I was having so much fun going, I'm going to do more than 100. Then I'm like, okay, I'm going to do 100. So I am still looking to talk to dynamic women. It has just been it is amazing. Like I said, Jacqueline, it's amazing who shows up.
Mhm.
And it has just been a blessing to me, and just a great journey. So yes, I am still open to having that conversation with women. It is a very brief conversation, and it's very non-invasive. I'll say it that way. It's not invasive at all.
And who are you looking for? If you could give a few different areas of criterion that you're looking for so that someone can say, yes, that's me.
I am looking for women. Originally, I was looking for women. What did I say? I said 35 to 55. And I've learned, and I've opened up that age range, because there are women. I've had one young lady that was 27. She's like, oh, no, 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 I want to be a part of this. And then I've had women in their 70s going, you need our voice. And they're absolutely right. So I'm looking for women, ideally, who are tenured in business, who can give a little bit of their experience. I've had a great fortune of talking to some that are new, but my real ask and my real need are women who have actually had a lot of tenure or experience in business, and women who have left their businesses because I can't find them on LinkedIn. I need the voices of women who have either retired, who walked in one day and said, I've had enough and just closed the doors, those who have maybe become too sick to work. I need those women because they share wisdom and stories that we can impart and help those that are coming behind them either do things differently or have a path of doing it exactly the way that they did it.
Well, if you find yourself in any of those categories, or maybe you have something even slightly different to share that you feel would be of value to Janice's new book, please contact us at the following address so that you can have your voice heard in her next book. So let me share with you where you can get in contact with Janise. If you send an email to support@the-management-academy.com and put Janise in the subject line, I will get that message directly over to her so that she can get in contact with you. So again, that's support@the-management-academy.com and put Janise, Janise, in the subject line to be able to get in touch with her. So Janise, tell us of the special gift that you have for our audience.
Yay, for those who are listening and the early birds, I am offering 4 books to the first 4 who reach out to Jacqueline, 4 signed copies of Living in Style Business Succession on Your Terms. So I am super excited. I think you will enjoy it. From the feedback that I've received, it has been extremely valuable. So that is my gift and my offering.
Signed copies, that is a rarity, so please take advantage of that. If you are interested in having a signed copy of Janice's book, use the email address right below, support@the-management-academy.com, and put Janise in the subject line, and I will get your message over to her directly, and you will be one of those 4 to receive a signed copy of her book. So Janise, as we close out, tell me what advice, tips that you might have, strategies that you might have for an entrepreneur that maybe has not fully considered exit strategy. Maybe they've never thought of it at all, or maybe they've now become aware of it, or they were aware of it before and they really have not taken strategic steps to be able to advance in that direction. What kind of tips or advice would you have for those individuals?
Well, my first is it either advice or something, is really acknowledgement or reminder that pre-planning is a lot less expensive and a lot less stressful than crisis planning.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have a plan, the idea of just sitting and jotting down one thing, start with your why. Why would this be important to you? And my other tip would be to really just kind of take a look at your business, take a look at what's around you. And I always like to say we plan for the worst and expect the best. But if we plan for the best and expect the best, we kind of we leave ourselves hanging out there. So just really take a moment to just say, you know what? I don't expect anything to happen. Some folks say, I don't want to have bad thoughts. It's bad karma. But the reality is that if we could put a plan in place and then just exhale, it's just emergency preparedness. Plan for the worst, expect the best. And start now, it costs a lot less.
That's part of wisdom, is looking at the full picture, all the options and opportunities, as well as all the risks. And that, as a project manager, I know very well is where most projects fail. And your business is a project that you need to look at all the risks and plan for those risks as well. And when you can plan for those risks, if they should occur, now you just go into execution mode as to what you plan to do to mitigate those strategies, those risks, versus, as you said, going into the mode of putting out the fire versus planning for the fire and knowing what to do. So Janise Graham, thank you so very much for your pearls of wisdom. It's been a pleasure to have you on the Difference Makers to be able to share and to help our business owners to plan their exit strategy. So thank you, all of you out there, for watching. It is our year number 2 of the Difference Makers, and we appreciate your viewership. Have a great day.